I'm Lewis Johnson, and we want to wish all of you a belated happy Thanksgiving for those of you who celebrate the holiday. I do have one friend on here and a colleague on working on a great project who doesn't celebrate this holiday, but I know that Astrid now has learned a lot about it in
Yeah.
terms of all the dishes and everything. So we're glad to have you all here. Once again, folks, we're really excited to be here to help you achieve excellence. And today we're going to pay some specific attention to this idea of managing a big disappointment in your life. All right. We're going to talk a lot about managing a big disappointment in your life. And we're going to share some real stories with some detail. And we'll also share the ideas on processing the situation. What are the solutions? And then we hope that how this inspires all of you to figure out ways to deal with disappointing moments, especially now during this pandemic that is affecting everyone, not just here in the US, but globally. As always, I want to thank all of you in advance for not recording this event or using any of the footage of this event without the written consent of the Leaping Legends and Olympic high jumper Charles Austin, of course, who is here. And Charles, after fixing that little hiccup, those things happen. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just very happy to see you all again and have another opportunity to share with one another and our audience, and hopefully we can continue to inspire.
I'm sure we're going to do that. And if I could invite everybody just for the moment to mute your lines, if you could just mute, we're going to get to some questions in a few moments. All of you who do have questions, don't hesitate to start dropping those in the chat. I'll be looking at them. So will Charles. We'll get to those in just a moment. But Charles, as we were saying, we're really in an unprecedented time in our lives. Most obvious, it's how the COVID pandemic is affecting everyone. The concerns or the fear of getting sick. We've lost thousands of people around the world. Jobs are affected, been lost. Careers are on hold, both in sports and in business. Businesses are closed. Entrepreneurs like myself and many others are trying to find ways to get things going. And it seems as though some of the dreams could be jeopardized. Then you look way down the list of those serious topics, and then there's the loss of sports, okay? And that's something that's all a part of our lives. We all share that in common. And I just want to ask you as we get started, Charles, what are your thoughts on the tough lessons that you've learned in sports, we've all learned in sports, and then how can we absolutely use those experiences to transfer them into our lives now after sport?
Well, some things that I learned during my athletic career are, one, to make the most of every moment. Next, don't take any moment for granted. Consume yourself in that moment, and then do your best. Strive to be the best you can be in that moment, because once that moment is gone, it's gone. There's no redo. So my thing was to always, like I say, go in focused and aware of the situation and try to make the most of it. And I carry that over into my life after my track and field career as well.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think that is the great analogy that we all have experienced in sports, that there are things that happen that, again, are totally out of your control, but it happens. You're trying to figure out how to deal with it, but be in the moment. I think that is a great piece of advice as we get started. So our legendary panel is back, and we have a legendary guest joining us today. And for those of you who may be joining for the first time, I just want to give you a little refresher, all right, on the history that they made on the biggest stages in global sports. And of course, give you just a glimpse of what our special guest did many years ago. Let me just get this.
This time, because last time the video didn't show. Remember? This might be a good one.
You guys hear that?
Back at the 1984 Olympic trials, and now he has Banks's American record to win this gold medal. Oh my goodness! It would endure for over 2 decades.
And then our special guest.
Nehemiah away beautifully at the moment. So it's Foster. Foster ahead at the moment. Foster from Nehemiah. Rick Foster. Nehemiah coming back. Now Nehemiah. Nehemiah from Foster. Nehemiah goes Foster second and Sunshine a third. Third and 6, San Francisco at its own 40-yard line. Montana. Going long. Nehemiah is wide open. 6 foot. 59 yards. And did he smoke that Viking secondary?
That's awesome.
Touchdown Nehemiah. And did he smoke that Viking secondary? Yes, he did. That is great stuff. And thanks to Charles for securing that video. And just a refresher of what all these leaping legends have done, and of course, what Renaldo did. But the story of his journey, we'll get into deeper in just a second. But let me just kind of go around the horn here and say hello to our group that we are so fortunate to have together every week. Jackie, first of all, happy Thanksgiving belated. How are you? And how much did you eat? Hopefully less than I did.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, and I'm so blessed to be able to eat, and enjoyed it, relax, and just try to find time to kind of relax.
Yeah, I hear you. Kenny, how about you? How was your holiday with family and friends, or I guess a small group of people? What'd you do?
Absolutely. We just had a nice time. We sat down, had Thanksgiving dinner from afar, even though my mom and dad are right upstairs right now, and I'm keeping them close and keeping an eye on them. But we had amazing food. I'm done with turkey. I'm trying to eat bratwurst, something new, and enjoy it. But we're awesome.
Yeah, I think I was telling somebody this. I tweeted out, this is the first year that I missed working the Bayou Classic in like 20 years on NBC, but it's also the first time in 20 years that I had leftovers from home. The first time, because I'm always gone after Thursday and Friday morning. So, I'm going to keep eating that extra turkey and dressing before I get sick of it. Bob Beeman, how are you doing? What's going on? How's everything?
Great. I had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I celebrated it with my wife. And of course, we missed the rest of the family. But the interesting thing is that we had everybody Zoom in just to say a Thanksgiving prayer. So I had all the family members Zoom in on it. And I think that was healing enough for what we're into today, not having the chance to be with family much.
Yeah, that's really something. And we did the same thing. We had a big family Zoom event to be able to get together and see each other and talk and share some stories. So that is so important. And Charles, for you, you've got a business there. You're sitting in your gym, of course. What was Thanksgiving like for you with family?
Oh, it was great. We just stayed in, me, my wife, my youngest son and my oldest son, and just had a good time at the house, just relax, with all this COVID activity. And we just wanted to play it safe. And so we had a great time at home, and it was fun and relaxing. Had a great meal.
Great. That sounds great. That's the way it should be. And, next year, maybe things will be a bit more normal, but we'll see when we get to that. Well, let's continue. And I got to tell all of you, I wish you all could have been on here before we actually joined you, because the conversation among this group was just amazing. The energy, the respect, and the honor of each other's talent is just something that was fun to watch and be a part of. And so it's a real honor to have such a special guest, a guy who was a super athlete. And I would say, and I'm sure everybody would agree, a superhuman being as well. And I'm talking about Renaldo Nehemiah. And before he speaks, I want you guys to hear his words on managing the greatest disappointment of his life in sports. That was back in 1980. So, just imagine the moment in your life when you're ready to compete. This is that window, the time. But suddenly you lose your support, your opportunity, and you have zero control over the decision, nothing. Then what? Well, I want you to listen to the way Renaldo dealt with it. 1 second.
the reason I left athletics in the first place was because of the political implications of the 1980 boycott. And the one thing that I took for granted was the freedom to run for the joy of the sport. And I never, ever thought that politics would play into what I was doing. And so it just became very disheartening for me to have 4 years of training taken away because our government didn't like what another country was doing. And not only that, but most importantly, I had just graduated from the University of Maryland. So in America, when you graduate, you go out and get a job. And so if there was any opportunity for success as a result of the Olympics, gold medal, what have you, that was now taken away from me, to get opportunities, financial opportunities. So American football at that time basically saved my athletic career. I didn't do it because I wanted to. I did it out of necessity. Athletics was still an amateur sport, so there still wasn't any money. I mean, yeah, if you won a gold medal, there's an opportunity to get some endorsements and all that, but you had to get to the Olympic Games first in order to have that happen. So that was taken away from me. So I was facing basically 4 years with no income, no foreseeable income, because it was an amateur sport. And I was just fortunate to be talented enough that I had an opportunity to play American football, and I landed with the San Francisco 49ers. So I always tell everybody that they saved my athletic career as I knew it at that point. I was a 22-year-old college graduate without a job. And so I got to play America's sport, professional football, and make a sizable, handsome income, which not too many people would have argued at that point. Running for zero, making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars playing American football. So.
Yeah, so that, did you guys hear that? Yeah, so that was the situation that Ronaldo found himself in a situation where he had zero control when the government decided that they were going to boycott the 80 Olympics. And so with that, I say, welcome, Ronaldo. It's great to see you, man. How are you doing?
Great to be here, Lewis, and the distinguished panel and guests. It's great. Under these circumstances, I'm just glad to see everybody is healthy and looking forward to our conversation. Yeah.
Well, let's start it right here. So when you see that and you hear yourself talking about the situation, how you dealt with it, what kind of memories come back for you about that time and having to be confronted with something that you had no control over, and everything that you had worked for was suddenly ripped away from you, and now you had to deal with the emotion of it, and then at some point come around to try to make some decisions and then take some action. How did you deal with all that?
Well, it took me at least 20 plus odd years to even want to talk about it. That's how really? Hurtful it was for me. Yeah, it was everything that an amateur athlete had aspired to participate in. And I had fortunately won the Olympic trials to represent our country. And then to have that taken away. Now, what I didn't say in that piece, I guess I can say it now, is that yes, there was money in the sport, but it was under the table. And if you got exposed, then you were going to be banned. So, there was a lot of risk involved in the little bit of money that we were making. But, God answers all prayers. And, when one door closes, another one opens. I just happened to be in the right place and sought by the right teams, I guess, to take advantage of different talents. But I also subscribe to the theory that one race should not ever, or one event should not ever define you. And I always told everybody, even if we had gone to the Olympic Games and I had lost a gold medal, would I still have not been the best hurdler in the world? I may not have won that race and been the best hurdler on that day, but I don't think it would have taken away from me being the best hurdler in the world. So I guess that in and of itself led me to believe that since I couldn't control things and they were totally out of my control, maybe I should try to pursue something that was a little bit more in my control with less interference. So as I said, I was a college graduate. I needed a job. There was no foreseeable Olympics on the horizon for the next 4 years. And then there was talk about a retaliatory boycott. So I was just disheartened about the politics of the games. And I just kind of wanted to compete freely. And I guess that was a naive thought, but at the time, it was real to me. I didn't have sizable income. And even then, and I'm a dinosaur, I guess, when you talk about the sports evolution, the money that we were able to make, we had to have trust funds. And then someone was dictating how you spent the money. And they could approve or disapprove of the expenses. So even if you wanted to go out and purchase certain things, if they thought it wasn't necessary, you couldn't do that. And some of you might recall, I even competed in the Superstars, and they threatened to take that money away from me. And, so any kind of means that I was trying to make money, because I was labeled an amateur, it was being threatened. So the whole scenario, it wasn't just one thing, it was an accumulation of events that was prohibiting me from freely earning a living through my talents at that time. And thank God, Bill Walsh came knocking on the door, and that allowed me to freely, earn money for a period of time.
For those of you who don't follow American football, Bill Walsh was the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers at the time, and who brought you over to play with the great Joe Montana, the quarterback. You said so much in there, and I want to continue to try and tie what we're talking about to current day situations for people who are dealing with such tremendous loss and difficulty and things that are completely out of their control because of COVID, basically. But I have to go back to the first thing you said. You said it took you 25 years to talk about what happened in 1980. Is that right? And why so long? Why so long?
Because in athletics, i.e. track and field, most of us are defined by our Olympic glory or lack thereof. And I have wrongly been introduced to this day as an Olympic gold medalist. And I've gotten to a point where I'm comfortable enough to tell someone, I'm an Olympian, but I've never had the privilege of walking into an Olympic stadium as an Olympian. And people are, aghast by that. They go, what? I said, I know, thank you, I'm flattered. I won so much, you just assumed I won the Olympic Games.
Wow.
But I never got to compete for America in Olympic Games. Ever.
Right. And people should also know too, that there is some jargon that you should never use for somebody who made an Olympic team. I know because I didn't make it twice, 88, 92. But when you make an Olympic team, you are an Olympian for life. There's no such thing as former Olympian. You are an Olympian for life. So even though you didn't step on the stage, you made the team, right, Renaldo? So you are a 1980 Olympian for life, even though
Yes.
is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. But it was bittersweet because I didn't have an experience. I mean, the Jackies, the Kennys, the Bob Beamons, the Charles Austins of the world, all my peers and contemporaries, they had an experience that no matter what I ever accomplished, I could never relate to that. And that was painful. And the painful reminder that so many people held me in such high esteem, and I could not relate to that one singular experience. So that was painful. So I chose not to really speak about it for years, because it was a raw emotion. It was an empty, hollow feeling that I could never recapture. And I guess, as time heals all wounds and you get older and you finally realize, and I had to subscribe to my own philosophy that one race could not define who I was. So don't feel like a failure, because I did feel like a failure. Yes, I'm an Olympian, but I didn't have the Olympic experience.
Right.
But I had to recognize that I had been able to go on and move on and still be successful in other ways through that Olympic blood that runs through me.
Right. So I want to bring the rest of the group in here, but let me ask this one thing as we segue. What's your general message to people today who are dealing with this COVID pandemic? And when you're in the four walls of your home, dealing with your own thoughts and your own aspirations, your own things that have been shattered and illness and trying to avoid it, what have you, and seeing businesses go down and you're not sure if it's going to make it or not, what sort of general advice do you have for people trying to navigate this pandemic right now? It's something that seems like it's taking forever, but we know at some point it's going to be a season that we will pass through. How do you speak to that based on your experience?
One has to believe without doubt. You have to press in there and understand. You think of all your darkest days, and we've all had some. Have we gotten through them on the other side to be able to tell that story? Yes, we have. We're all standing here right now. So in that moment, it's painful, it's uncomfortable, but we have to believe without doubt that there's something to be learned through the adversity. We will become better. There are lessons that we will acquire from it. And that we know that those same attributes, in my case, in anyone's case, that got me, the attributes to graduate college, the attributes to win your first race, the attributes to make a first team, they didn't happen by accident. They're innate. There's something that's burning inside of you that you are more than just that. And so everything that I've always done, I try to bring that world-class spirit, if you will, that I will not be denied, and if my mother always told me before she passed away, if man can think it, man can do it. Don't let man tell you what you can or cannot do. So I just believe without doubt that I'm able to use all the peaks and valleys in my life to my advantage. So I always tell everyone, don't let one singular moment define you. Pick yourself up, press back in there, and see yourself through it. And it's called long suffering. We all have to long suffer at some point, but we do make it to the other side.
Yeah, that is tremendous advice based on real life experience. So we're continuing to discuss managing a big disappointment in your life. That's our topic today with our Leaping Legends and special guest, Renaldo Nehemiah. And for all of you who are watching or being a part of this, you can surely send your questions in the chat. I'll be asking some of those in a few moments, and just keep those questions to our topic. That'll be great. And I'll be getting to those in just a minute. All right, Jackie. So you had a long career in sports, and of course have been in business and running your location for the kids there in East St. Louis. What are some of the memories that jump out at you about moments where things were just either a disaster or it was a massive disappointment, and how you dealt with some of those things?
I love what Renaldo was saying, believe without doubt. And you have to live your life that way. And even for me as a youngster growing up in East St. Louis, when everyone would just say some real cruel things about your community or how you might not amount to anything. But somewhere in there, having that belief and not allowing that doubt to seep in. And for me, it's always been focused on the things I can control and not worry about the things I cannot, And so from a youngster doing sports and, not being one of the best, but always willing to work hard and take each moment that you think that's a disappointment and learn from it. And what I learned from that is that I allow that to motivate me. I allow that to inspire me in my training or in my work with what I'm doing in the community today, trying to make sure that all of my staff stay whole, and those who are part-time, making sure that they're able to receive a paycheck, coming up with ideas that we might not be able to be in the building, but we can do training, which they can get their hours in. So, but just trying to walk in the shoes of others because of my own blessings, but not letting the disappointment to become overwhelmed to the point where you can't think, you can't focus, and you can't do, as Renaldo was saying, believe without doubt. So the atmosphere that we're in today is that we all have to believe, and this too shall pass. But we truly, truly have to believe, and that the suffering that we're faced with today is that we can turn it around and could inspire and motivate and be able to. We all have our own narrative, but also not be forgotten for those who have lost their lives in dealing with this pandemic. But still, we all can be strong in motivating and inspiring others. And that's what you learn from sports.
Yeah. It is so amazing because, as you both have alluded to, there's so much that you can do in terms of your preparation, your attitude, and then the get ready to execute. But there's so much out of your control. I mean, even simple things like the weather on that big day or what have you, or an injury that creeps up, or Jackie, you dealing with asthma. And how's that going to act today based on where we are in the world competing? And Bob, for you, when you were preparing to go and what would ultimately be, the biggest jump in history in the long jump, I mean, what do you remember about some of the difficulties you went through and how you managed those to get yourself to that big stage and perform and give everybody something they would never, ever forget with that jump that you almost went out of the stadium, man? What do you remember about those days?
I think that Ronaldo and Jackie had some great points of surviving those dark days. One of the things that happened to me back in 1968 was I was attending the University of Texas at El Paso, and we were going to compete against Brigham Young, and our team decided that we were not going to compete because of the beliefs of their religion about African Americans. And so we decided not to compete, the Black athletes on the team, and so we lost our scholarship. And one of the interesting things was that, for that moment, I found myself, what do I do? I mean, I lost my scholarship. I can't go back to school. What should I do? I mean, I'm in the midst of competition. I'm doing extraordinarily well. I had won the NC indoors and was getting ready to step outdoors. And here I am losing my scholarship. Here I am not knowing where I wanted to go. And then suddenly something hit me, was that I needed to stay focused. I needed to take all of those negative things out of my mind and come back to the reality that, hey, you trained so many years from the time you were 9 years old and you're 22 years old now. I need to come back into myself. And so the interesting thing that happened, that I did go back and I started to become more focused and believed in myself. And then, of course, what else happened? The boycott for the Olympic Games. All the Black athletes were boycott. We were going to boycott for the 1968 Olympic Games. And I said to myself, that I have trained so many years, I have to stay focused and want to really get into the dream. I want to make my dreams become a reality. And so I said that I will compete no matter what the situation is. I said, I don't know what the next 4 years will come to me. I don't know what will happen. So let me stay focused. And so at the end there, we all decided to go to compete in Mexico City. And of course, I had a very good day on that day. However, as I said, there are some things that can sidetrack you. And some of the things that I describe as peak experiences. And each of them are different, but you have to analyze, you have to always be aware that there are going to be some of those kinds of days, but how do you come back? So you have to have a lot of belief in yourself, where you want to go, your direction. So that's just a bit of what had happened to me in some of my dark days and how I overcame the obstacles.
And that is such a deep discussion, deep topics that you brought up, because again, like everybody else, it touches on so much. And even the racial cultural issue that was intertwined with the Olympic Games, and how you had to make a decision. And sometimes I think that even with all the noise and all the real facts and issues and situations that are going on in our lives, we have to make our own decisions about what we're going to do. Is that right? I think that's what I heard you say. You have to make your own decision and move forward on it. And maybe not everyone understands it, but it is important to do so. Kenny, you have also had an incredible experience in your athletic life. Give us kind of a sense of some of the moments you may remember that gave you the biggest challenges that you had to get through that now apply to today's life.
Well, I will say this. I want to try to keep it as light as possible, first of all, because going through this pandemic and dealing with, everyday life for real. And I got into track and field just to see how amazing I could take my body to. I never thought of it as like a career or a sport, or I wasn't out there like being an entertainer. That's not what I wanted to do. I think I learned that when I had knee surgery in 1991, when I blew my ACL out, knee surgery, and I was one of the best jumpers in the world at the time, before the 92 Olympics. I think people don't know that I had to have knee surgery before then. I was world champion in 1991. In 1990, I was undefeated from 1990 to 1991. But at that time, you know, my goal was just to be the best athlete that I could be at the time. And then when it was taken away from me through knee surgery and everything else, I always just trusted in the fact that I'm going to be okay. And it wasn't like track and field was like the major like driving force behind me, because I know that I think that I'm an amazing person in a lot of different avenues, and I just tried to focus on those things. And what track and field gave me was kind of like the guidance and kept me in place. And having knee surgery and putting things in perspective let me know that I'm going to be okay, to be able to come back in 1996 after having knee surgery and going through a myriad of things that you guys understand that are on the panel that are here that are amazing too. It's very difficult to understand where your money's going to come from when you're competing in track and field for 4 years after having knee surgery, and to just be able to get out and do stuff with the community and do different things that are also just not focused on track and field, and just learning how to be who you are as a person. Track and field gave me that ability to be a better person, not just a great track and field athlete. I think I'm a way better person than I am a track and field athlete. And like I said, I'm just honored to be on here with, I got dressed up for Renaldo Nehemiah today,
Exactly.
because I'm a biggest fan. Man, he is just like, he has no idea. Just watching him run down the track and step off the hurdle with the aggression he used to do just made me just know that I'm going to be okay in my event.
Right.
Because I know I won't go try his event. I know I'm good where I'm at. so to see that.
So Kenny, let's take people inside for a second. You told a funny story before we got on. What's the age difference between the two of you, first of all? Because you're obviously younger than Skeets, but he was on the, you were watching him early on when you first came on, right? On the circuit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Way before.
Okay. And
way
so
before.
when you first came on, you saw him and you saw a couple other legends, and you saw him pull out what, and you were like, oh my goodness, these guys, they the man. They're the man.
Well, this would change my whole dynamic of track and field. I saw Renaldo Nehemiah, Greg Foster.
Okay, Greg Foster was another legendary hurdler, American hurdler. For those of you who don't know, he was world champion many times indoor, right? And was always on this outdoor as well, right?
These are grown men, mind you. These are guys with muscles that I never seen before in my life. And I'm only 5'9". And I saw these guys walk up to the counter, Mr. Handsome 1 and Mr. Handsome 2. And they pull out Platinum American Express cards. And they pay for the hotel or wherever we were at. And I was like, what is that? And from that moment, track and field changed. They changed my whole dynamic of what track and field was. Because I was like, wow. I need to get one of those tomorrow. So it just changed my dynamic, but my appreciation not only for, the sport itself, it's just watching the character and the abilities that these gentlemen and these grown men had made me change my dynamic of what I wanted to accomplish out of my day. I don't know. It just made it more fun. It made it more exciting. It just made it more fun.
No question. And this bit of levity is important because what we're talking about is very serious. I'm going to go back around the horn with another question in a second. But I remember being at the 88 trials, which I almost feel like I had no business being at, but I was there. I qualified the 800. I was out the first round, overwhelmed that I was there watching all these great legends like Jackie and all these other folks compete. And then that summer, a fateful conversation in a hotel lobby gave me the info about track overseas. And I get to Europe. And we're like, say, for instance, in Grosseto, these little small Italian towns, and the hotel has no AC. and it's too hot to be in the room. So you're sitting outside in front of the hotel at these little metal tables, and people are talking. It's all these legends of people are just talking. I got my little ice cream there, and I'm listening to people like Renaldo and Evelyn Ashford talk about the sport. And they're not just talking about it in America, they're talking about it globally. And I had no clue about what the sport was about. And I learned so much there. But you know, you learn about people when they're out of the spotlight, right? And so they would share these stories and talk about what was important to them, what was going on, what was good, what was bad. And they trained like crazy. They ate well and they competed well all the time. So when you hear stories about that Renaldo shared today, or other people talking about the difficulties they went through, you have even more respect, and you can take even more credence in what they're saying, because they were operating at the highest level, but went through some extremely difficult moments and persevered through that. And so you can take some of these words you're hearing today as something you can really apply to your life. And I know that I for sure have had absolute respect for all of them that we're talking about. So I'm gonna go back around the horn. This is a quick round. This is a lightning round, all right? And I want, starting with you, Renaldo, I know that we've got some parents on here who are asking about what are some of the things you can teach your kids. And, you know, there's a million books in Barnes and Noble, but there's no book on parenting, right? Because it's what's happening in your house. But each one of you, just give me 2 or 3 bullet points of you think the things that were important values or value sets to kind of help your kids with, or even help an adult with navigating disappointments in life, and how you move through those and keep going. Renaldo, you're up first. What you got?
Well, I had answered on this chat, and I said, must always have an audience of one. And
what does that mean?
So you're focused on yourself. I said you're not coveting anything or anyone else. Mm-hmm. And any incremental improvement is a success. So we have to have little successes along the way.
Right.
And a lot of times young people see the forest before the trees, and they want what they see out there. They're coveting, and it's from someone else. And you have to focus in on yourself and be the very best that you can be, and try to improve. And you're competing against you. That's the measuring stick, right. You know, and ultimately, as you make incremental successes, then they will lead to bigger successes, because then you'll be ingrained the proper fundamentals of working from within.
Now, thinking about what you just said, at our age group, when we didn't have this telling us what was success and what looked right and what was supposed to be the way to be, this thing right here, and social media, what have you, has changed the game with how kids and then parents are trying to deal with what success looks like. And we have this, we have that, you get what I'm saying? So now how much more difficult it is now when you're having to battle with this outside force?
We lived at better times, you know, believe it or not. Social media is the biggest detriment, because like I said, everything is from the outside coming in instead of the inside coming out. So we built from foundational principles from families inside out. Today, even as us adults, we're getting all of our information from those gadgets. We're spending more time outside of ourselves than we are inside of ourselves. And a lot of people aren't mature enough to handle that, especially kids.
Yeah. Charles, what do you think? A couple of bullet points and nuggets on dealing with those difficult moments, and how do you work your way through it and come out?
Well, with me, I try to, limit my expectations, or not expect too much from others. I try to focus on, like Jackie was saying, things that I can control, things that I have, the ability to get the outcome that I want. So I say, worry about you and what you want to accomplish. If there's some disappointment, let it come from within. It's you, it's your life. It's what you are trying to do. What everyone else thinks, whatever they choose to do, I don't let that bother me. I try my best. And by limiting my expectations of others and focusing on Charles, that has enabled me to stay focused and get the best out of me. So that's something I would, tell kids this day and age to keep in mind.
Yeah. Bob, you sort of alluded to it when you were speaking earlier, but just a couple of quick nuggets on based on your experience and people today trying to again navigate this COVID situation when everything is up in the air, what are some of the most important points to you to try to deal with these disappointments, and how do you get through these things without having to just tear your whole life apart? Bob, you're on mute.
Sometimes we have a tendency to get entrenched into all the things that are coming in, like the media information, the things that have been happening over, let's say, the last 4 or 5 years. It's been nothing but information coming in, trying to stay focused. It can throw you off. However, as I had alluded to it before, I think that each of these things have peak experiences. And so what I do is I suggest that you take those experiences, each of them at one time, and throw them out, each of them, and get back on track and stay focused on what you want to go for, what your interest is, what your love is. Because there's so much information out there that will, as some of our celebrities have mentioned, that the media can do bad things to you. So you better stay focused and get into yourself.
Yeah, into yourself so you can accomplish. Jackie, you not only have yourself to deal with, but you also work with a lot of great kids there in your community, in your neighborhood. I'm sure they're all looking up to you as the Olympic legend that you are, but also the lady that you are. And how do you sort of advise them with a couple of important nuggets on dealing with difficulties, especially right now?
I think for me, the most important thing is honesty. And it's even in the sport or even in life, is what I love about track and field, and why I think track and field is a great metaphor for life, is that we all know if you put in the work and if you're ready or not. When you step on that line, if you're ready to perform. You can sugarcoat it, you can hide it, but in the end, have you truly been honest with yourself? Have you done the things that you needed to do to perform? And that's the same thing I talk with our young people, and tell them to be honest with themselves. Even as they use those devices, do you like the person that you see and what you see out there? And it's not about anybody else, it's about you. And so I for me, it's really the honesty and working hard and knowing that we all gonna have tough days, and you have to figure out what you need to do. How do you meet this challenge? And don't give in, don't quit, don't run from it, and don't blame someone else. What did you do, or what can you do better? Yeah. And how this person can help you.
Yeah. One of the things we've done, in our home, we've done several things as our kids grew up, but I believe that we can positively use some subliminal messaging, because that's already happening anyway with the social media, what have you. So when our boys were young, I printed up this card that says, "We practice unconditional love in this house." Big red letters. "We practice unconditional love in this house." And I laminated it. I made like 6 or 7 copies of it. And I put that at the bottom of the mirror, in every mirror in the bathrooms and around the house, and just left it there for the brain to take in. And then it was something that we had to practice. In other words, we started every morning, we started out with a hug and an embrace. And no matter what happened in between, no matter how crazy or loud or ugly or whatever it got, we ended the night with that. And to this day, with our boys at 25 and 23, whenever we see them, that is exactly what happens first. It's an embrace, coming and going. And it's an acceptance of what you're going through. And it's to say that at some time you need to kind of close the world out a bit and kind of deal with what you got going on. What are your strengths, your weaknesses? What are your insecurities? What are you happy about? What are you worried about? And have that core group of people you can go to talk and discuss these things and work through those things with them, because there's so much noise out there. And the COVID pandemic has brought that to another level. And also the racial injustice and things we've had taken to another level. Yes, Jackie.
You're right. I just want to add, when Renaldo was sharing the story, as we were watching the video, and it just, we take so much for granted for now. And to know that here is a champion both on and off the field, you know, and no, he doesn't have to stand on top of the podium, but this whole idea that Charles came up with is about excellence. Here's a man that exudes excellence both on and off the field, and being able to have that transcend to the athletes that he works with. And, you know, and I just wanted to add that because he gave us a lot of nuggets, you know, and for our younger generation, the things that, you know, we just take for granted, you know, it's guaranteed you're going to get X amount of dollars, where people that come before them are working extremely hard so they can have the opportunities that are presented to them today. So when you think about the disappointment, wow, I had an opportunity to compete in 4 Olympic Games. Look at athletes that are disappointed because the Olympics are delayed. And we don't know because we're still dealing with a pandemic.
Right.
You know, and hopefully that delay won't be a disappointment for those who have to delay it another year. But.
Yeah, and I have a feeling if it's Jackie, your points are right on as always. And I have a feeling that, you know, if there won't be another delay in the Olympics. It'll either happen in July or it won't. It'll be canceled. But I would say that the world needs the Olympic Games to happen, because we need that. For us, many of us are biased. We need that ultimate symbol of unity. We need that symbol of cross-cultural embracing each other. So we've got this. We can leave politics and everything to the outside, and people come to that stage and compete. Jackie, when you go back to be a part of it, you know what that feels like. Kenny, you know what it feels like. Bob, when you're around, you know, Renaldo, when you're there representing athletes as their agent or manager, you know what that feels like. I know what it feels like as a journalist. I want to introduce to you guys someone who was on this call from Australia. I felt so strongly about trying to help athletes with their media competency and being better communicators with the media. I decided I want to do something that was more poignant to the moment, and to really begin to work with us being able to come together in cultural truth and get to know each other and break these barriers down, especially starting in the sports locker rooms. And by an unexplainable situation, I came across Astrid Hoffman, who is joining us now from Astrid. I think you're in Melbourne. You're on mute. And myself, my business partner here, Jacob Miles, and Astrid, and another man, Craig Shem, we're working on this training program to really bring an opportunity for people in locker rooms to begin to come together in cultural truth, and then move that across college campuses. And Astrid, I just wanted you to take a moment and say hello to everybody. And from the other side of the world, as you hear these conversations, what are your thoughts about, you know, how sports has really come along and is a parallel to life, and how we can maybe take this time where we can really begin to come together as we make this transition in our government here in the United States, and just how can we become culturally more close?
Wow. First of all, hello to everybody from Melbourne, Australia, where it's morning here. That's a lot you've asked me there.
I know. So take whatever piece you want.
Put me on the spot. I just want to kind of back up and say what we're looking at with this project we're working on together is trying to understand what part of our behavior is driven by our cultural background, and not to say it's good or bad, just to understand it. And from that understanding of yourself, to pivot out to be able to respect that other people have developed different ways of being in the world that are equally valid. So that's our starting point, right? Yeah. And when I hear all of you amazing Olympians, what's coming to me from this is the incredible focus that you all have on being your best self. And I think this is probably the reason why sport remains, as I said in the chat box, a symbol of ideal brotherhood and excellence. And the Olympics is the pinnacle of that. So if we can get people to connect on that basic respectful level, I think we can move through this period of unsettled lack of agency. You know, we can't control what's going on, and do better. And I'm inspired by hearing you guys too, because most of you are thinking about how to be your best selves. And through doing that, you become role models for kids coming up. So it's inspiring for me this morning. Thanks for letting me join, Lewis.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm so glad you're on, Astrid, because it's important as we work our project to for you to absorb these types of experiences and to hear some of the greats that I've been lucky enough to get to know and maybe be around as an athlete and cover, of course, as a journalist. It is, yes.
It's another gentleman on that I would like you to introduce.
You got it.
I think
you beat me to it. You beat me to it. I sure do. I sure do.
Mark Williams, a gentleman that I've just come to meet this week, and we've had some great conversation. And I'm very honored that you took time out of your schedule to be a part of the Zoom conference, Doc. So go ahead, Lewis.
Yeah, it's Charles, thank you for doing that, because that's where I was going to go next. And Astrid, again, thank you for being on. And we've been meeting for the last 3 months every Wednesday, working on this project. You guys will hear more about it. And as Charles, that Thursday there, exactly. And as Charles mentioned, Dr. Mark Williams, who is somebody that's come into our world and just full of energy, experience, excitement, love of life, love of people, teaching, and a love of esports. You know, that is what we're really excited about. And of course, one of my other colleagues, Chantel Boucher, is on here. Love to have her here. But Doc, why don't you give us a sense of what you're hearing in this Zoomcast, and what are you taking from it? You're shaking your head. It must be a lot.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just took advantage of the chat box and kind of was reading people's comments and commented. Yeah. Nehemiah, also known as Skeets. I'm from New Jersey, so.
All right.
Okay, now wait a minute. Can he call you Skeets? Is that?
Yeah. He old enough?
Yeah, is he old enough? Okay.
I'm old enough. I just look good for my age. Okay.
Yeah, so we had this conversation about who can call Renaldo Skeets or not. And it was like, when the young kids call him Skeets, like, no, you can't do that because you weren't around when I was competing. So
I was around.
You got the green light. You were around, exactly.
I just took care of myself, and but I'm so it's funny listening to this. I mean, everyone focuses on the esports stuff, and which is true. But if someone asks me what my favorite sport is, everyone knows it's track and field. Renaldo, Jackie, Bob, Kenny, you probably don't know any of this stuff, but I'm about to tell you something, and you're all going to be like, oh my God, because I'm connected to all of you in many ways. One with Bob Beeman, my godfather was Larry James, okay? So I'm very familiar with who you are. Ron Freeman is a dear friend over 20 some years, and he always talks highly about you, speaks so much respect about you. It's insane that we've never met, Bob Beeman, ridiculous. Renaldo Nehemiah, insane we never met, because I was a young person. My dad took me to come see you run in Scotch Plains when we were kids. I was at Pin Relays when you ran that 43 split. I was there for that, okay? So I watch you. You don't have no idea who's watching you. Jackie, I was there in '88 at the trials in Indianapolis. I was there, I was just finished high school. I'm 51 years old. So, Hazel Clark, the Clark family, I'm very close with Hazel, one of my best friends. Carl Lewis and Leroy Burrell, I was kind of the leadership training for their track and field team 2 years ago when I was a visiting professor there. Johnny Gray's one of my best friend probably. So I'm connected to all of you in many ways. So it's a privilege to be here with you. Charles Austin, he knows how I feel about him. I'm a big fan of his. And Lewis Johnson, we just did an interview last week, and I said to him, I had dreams. I didn't get to the level you guys got to. I stopped after college, but I told Lewis, I said, I always had a dream of being interviewed after a big race. I said, but now I'm being interviewed with you as an executive, so it's really cool. So
yeah.
So I just wanted to say thank you for letting me comment. What I've heard is, I think Jackie Joyner put it best when she talked about track and field as a metaphor for life, and I think that if you run track or you've been a part of it, you've seen disappointment in life. And if you can overcome those disappointments and on a track and field, you can definitely take those lessons and implement it into your everyday life. that's why I always encourage people to play sports, but particularly track, because track, you're by yourself on the track unless you're running on a relay team. And so you always have to figure out how do you take who you are as an individual, how you take the lessons that you learn, whether you be hurt or if it's to Nehemiah's point, being in the 80 Olympics and not, being able to compete. And even though I wasn't Nehemiah, I felt him. I felt him and many other people that couldn't compete in the 80 Olympics, whether they're any sport. And so I could understand and identify with you, Renaldo. Can't even imagine what that must have felt like, and having to go to another sport, because this sport over here didn't they believed in you in football, but yet, unfortunately, the boycott, you weren't able to participate, and you were at the height of your career at that time. But the good thing is, like Lewis Johnson said, you'll always be an Olympian. And I just want to say thank you for all of you sharing golden nuggets, and just honored to be part of the conversation.
Hey, Doc, before you get off, can you just share with the audience a little more of your background?
Sure.
Also, I foresee you being one of our special guests here pretty soon as well.
So thank you. So my background is in sports marketing. So I did my master's at UMass Amherst. I was a grad assistant for John Calipari when I was at UMass in Bruiser Flint, and they're now at Kentucky, obviously. I left there, went to Reebok. I was the head of marketing for Reebok. I managed Allen Iverson and Venus Williams when I was there. Then became the head of marketing for Foot Action, athletic retailer Foot Action. We were the first retailer to ever work with hip hop artists and giving them opportunity to get a shoe deal. So I negotiated 50 Cent Jay-Z's deal with Reebok, started the annual mixtape tour, did a lot of product placement in movies and video games back in the mid 2000s. Then I became global vice president for athletic retailer Champ Sports. And then I went and started my own company, then got a PhD. And now I'm just, I'm a motivational speaker. And I work with universities and the Department of Education on how to fund esports programs across the country. And Lewis Johnson and Chantel, we're going to be future colleagues now. I'm going to have a podcast, along with my colleagues there, and I'll be working with Charles on his apparatus as well, as far as helping the market and brand, the new fitness apparatus that he has, and so that's the long and short of it. And so my background is marketing, sports marketing. So if you are interested in working with somebody that has an interesting background in marketing and professional development, that's what I did for my dissertation. I focused on how to prepare athletes for life. And I work with all the schools and athletic directors in the Big Ten. So I have a leadership academy for athletes at 45 Division I universities as well. So yeah, so I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited to be here. And like I said, my energy and passion for life is what it is, man. And like I said, I want to make sure that I use Charles's apparatus, because I can't talk to people about mind, body, and soul and not look the part. I can't talk about mind and spirit and body doesn't look like it. And fortunately, I've been fortunate to take care of myself. But again, I admire all of you that are on the call because all of you taking care of yourself. It's a pleasure to see you. And I look forward to having more dialogue in the future if that opportunity presents itself.
Hey, Doc, I got a question for you real quick.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Kenny Harrison. I just want to ask you a question. Can you help us get a video game with Charles Austin, Jackie Joyner, Mr. Beeman, myself? And
there we go.
Like
that's the question.
Cool video game that actually is track and field driven. Have my man Skeets, I can call him that because I'm 55. And we get like a cool video game put together with us, the Leaping Legends, and amazing guests to present to the young kids and the youth. Is there something that you might come up with down the road that might be able to help us to move that in the right direction?
That's a good question. I think the quick answer is anything's possible, right? I think the most important thing is the problem. Here's the problem with our society. Everyone is so focused on the Call of Duty and Fortnite games, but they forget about other games that are out there that exist with NASCAR, PGA, and all that. And one of the things that's missing that I noticed is track and field. No one talks about those games. So I'm having a call actually with the president of Xbox on Wednesday and the head of PlayStation on Thursday. So those are the kind of questions that I can present to them. I also think it's important to have those of you who are on the call, Kenny, Jackie, Bob, to be able to have dialogue with some of these developers so that they know, because they don't know that's an interest. Why would they know? They're trying to compete with the other guy. It's almost like when Nike signed Michael Jordan, everyone abandoned their marketing strategy. Reebok was number one in the 80s, right? With the whole fitness for women. They abandoned their whole strategy because they were trying to keep up with Michael Jordan. Everyone did that. And that's why they lost, and no one has ever recovered from that. Nike will always be number one because they have this crazy agency. And Wyatt and Kenny, amazing agency. And so Kenny, so I think that when we, with this collective, have the conversation with the video developers, and you say there's a demand for this, we want this, and now it's not to try to take advantage of the thing, but because of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor's death, a lot of these white companies are like, what do we do to help the Black folks, right? This is the time to do it now. So the simple answer is yes, we can present it, and we should sit down and put a PowerPoint deck together and talk about your desires and needs of what you want in it, and we can present it to some of these game makers and publishers and see what we can do. I think it's a great idea.
Awesome. Sorry, guys. I just threw that out there.
I just got one thing to say. Is there any question about energy and passion for life and business right here with Dr. Mark Williams? There is no question. It's awesome. And Doc, I can't wait for you to come back to the Dallas area again so we can pick up where we left off. Chantel and I are going to be talking to you. Of course, you did our podcast, so we're going to help you with getting yours started. And this is just what it's all about. Communication, cross-cultural awareness, discussing things. I got to do one more thing here, and I know we're over time, but there's another legend on this call who needs to say something. A man from Brazil who ran with one of the greatest teams ever.
Zeca.
I'm talking about Zeca Barbosa. Unmute yourself, Barbosa. Now, you're not in Brazil, but I know you're in Florida. But how are you doing, and what's it like to be around and listen to all these discussions about those days of track and field?
First of all, I want to be thankful. Being Thanksgiving, This is a great present to be here with all my friends from track and field. As a Brazilian young kid, I remember Bob Beamon in two situations. First of all, when he jumped in the 1968 Olympic game. Second time, it was when he went to Brazil to comfort and to talk one of the great athletes we had called João Carlos Oliveira, that triple jump that had an accident and lost his leg. And Bob Beamon was invited to go in Brazil. And I have the opportunity to be at that time in 1981, a young kid, to be one of the ones be among to receive Bob Beamon, because I was the same club as João Carlos Oliveira. Second, I remember seeing Renaldo Nehemiah broke the world record, 12:93. I was in Brazil sitting in the chair, and to me that was amazing. 12:93 was crazy to see that. And later on, to me, Renaldo Nehemiah was the most technical runner in the hurdles in the history. There's a lot of great runners there, but technically speaking, to me, Renaldo Nehemiah was the most efficient and technical athlete that I ever see run the hurdles. I see Charles Austin in 96, Kearney Harrison. I met him in San Diego. And to me, it's great to be here, to be part of this as Brazilian. And if you guys don't know, Brazil have, out of Africa, the largest population of Black people. And then unfortunately, we doesn't have the same opportunity. And now I'm on a journey together with two friends here in this room to do what you guys do, project to change and to go there and talk with the majority of Black kids to have the same opportunity that I had as an athlete. And to me, my gold medal was to come to America, to train and to be part of this great community of track and field and this great Black community that United States present to me. I am very thankful to be here and appreciate the invitation, Charles and Lewis Johnson.
Man, it is so great to hear your voice. And when I just hear you talk, Zach, I'm having all these memories, man. And you talk about Ronaldo being a technical agent. I don't know anybody who worked out harder than what I saw you guys do. I used to think our training was kind of difficult. I'll give you a quick example. We'd be over in Europe, say we're in Pisa, Rosetta, wherever it was. We go to track. It was you, Claudette Gronendahl, and Cruz, right? So you and Cruz would be out there running, and your coach, Jose Luis de Oliveira, who we need to keep in our prayers. He just had a major surgery over Qatar.
Mm-hmm.
He call you guys to the track. He warm up. He go, okay, we're gonna do 3 times 400, 49 seconds. Walk the curve, come back. And I'd hear that. I'm like, right. And sure enough, they get on the line, knock that 400 out, 47, 48, 49. Okay, jog the curve and come back on the line and hit it again 3 times. I was like, I need to go back to the hotel. I got no business being out here, man. But they did those kind of workouts all over the place. And I mean, we had a great time talking and laughing and joking, but we went to the track for training. You guys put it down. And that's why when you got on the line at some of those races, you were running 143 consistently. It was unbelievable. So I've always had massive respect for you and the way you guys managed your business. And always, again, you guys keep Jose Luis de Oliveira in your prayers. He had a serious surgery. Thanks to Barbosa, I was able to send him a message, and he actually voice recorded a message back from his bed thanking me for calling him. So we're going to keep in touch with him and hope he recovers. But you guys did something amazing. And if there's anything we can do to help you with your mission to be able to message and speak to the kids in Brazil, please let us know, because we need to be a part of that. We need to be a part of lifting up and inspiring anybody. And even Kenny, if it's through a game, Dr. Mark, where we can have this game that may be about track and field, but it's also about values and things that we want to promote to kids, we need to be doing that. So let's just keep this community going and keep working. And thank you also to Mr. D'Souza, who is actually outside of Sao Paulo. I see him on here. Thank you, sir, for being on. And for everybody who joined us today. Absolutely. Anybody else have any other questions before we wrap it up?
Do we have a few seconds? Do we have any questions?
I got one. I got one question.
Okay.
To our special guest, Renaldo. We now know, and you've shared that, you didn't have the opportunity to go to the Olympic Games because of the boycott. Now the question is, what was the reason why you didn't go? What happened that you could not go? What was the incidents that happened that would not allow you to compete in the Olympic Games? What was the reason? Did you ever find out a reason?
The reason shared with us was that the Russians had invaded Afghanistan, and President Carter took a stance wanting them to leave Afghanistan with the threat of the boycott. As we all know, they never left Afghanistan. And that wasn't, to me, that really wasn't the most painful part of the Olympic boycott. The Olympic boycott was segmented, meaning that President Carter allowed the Winter Olympians to go. Remember the Miracle on Ice when we beat the Russian pro team? And I got so blindly enthusiastic, like, okay, well, now they're going to let us go. And he still did not let us go. And the Russians never left Afghanistan. So it was the painful reality that we weren't going to Olympic Games, but then to have the Winter Olympians dangled in our face, like they got a chance to go. It wasn't like a uniform boycott. It was like an a la carte. The Winter Olympians got to go, but we couldn't go. And that's what made it so painful to me, because I couldn't justify and rationalize why they could go and we couldn't go. What was the difference? The Russians were still in Afghanistan.
Beautiful.
Oh. Yeah, that's it. That is it.
Renaldo, one question. Did you thought about the way Pietro Menea did? Because Italy also boycotted that game, but Pietro Menea went to the Italian committee at that time and said, I'm going because this is my last chance to do it. And he went under their Olympic flag and compete in Moscow. Did any athlete at that time in America thought about that, or that would be a confrontation with the Constitution, United States, with the government? Did you thought about you going how?
Jose, many people don't realize back then, our own federation could deny us travel to Europe, let alone the government. So we had to get permission to travel to Europe. So if back then it was the AAU, if they said, Renaldo, you can't travel to Italy, I couldn't go to Italy. That's well before it ever got to the government. So when the government said it, the AAU, the Athletics Congress, all these different federations that came about, they fell in line. So we didn't have that kind of voice at all. Again, like I said, you need permission from your own federation to go, let alone your government to go.
May I have a question?
Someone else there?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Well, my question right here, first of all, I need to say I'm very glad and I'm thankful to be in this meeting, because for me, it's just like being in heaven with this big constellation, because a lot of stars are over here, people that represents a lot, special for me. And my question in this specific situation is, we athletes, we have learned that sports is first of all, one structure of a military system, because all of the structure that we have is under the military system. Just by we have politicians involved, all of the situation that we have boycotts or not, is a politicians involved and political system involved in everything that it can stop the process of the sports. Do we learn about this? What more we need to learn in the sports beyond to compete?
All right, who wants to take that?
Jackie?
What was the question? The part of what have we learned?
Yeah, what did we learn? I think what he's referencing is that there's been kind of a military structure to a lot of the way sports has been executed or dealt with in the past. And what can you learn about that and how the governments get involved? And that for us in America, that's changed, right? So things are pretty much separated from that. But what could we learn in history of sports about how? I guess there could be some sort of independence away from the government control and military structure in sports. I hope that that's close.
Right.
Yes.
If you want independence, then it starts with funding, and so everything is around the money and how and the support. But here in America, good God Almighty, athletics is low on the totem pole for whatever reason. We might have the best athletes in the world, but when it comes to supporting, just on a national level, that why is it that we can't have sellout events here in America? And where is that support? And so what are we fighting against? And then how can we unite? It's easy to say, and it's extremely, extremely difficult to do because everyone's circumstances are different, and if you depend on this certain pot for your livelihood, then yes, you asking that person to make a great sacrifice, and that person might make a great sacrifice. But in the end, are we going to unite? And then when that person is struggling, give a little bit here to support that person? We don't do that. We could talk about it, but I see some things now that happen in our sport that we're afraid to just stand up, because for whatever reason, it might hurt us in the long run. But some of the things that's going on, a way I don't even go there, but it's just some things I don't agree with. I just don't.
Yeah, and Jackie, I feel you, and it sounds like we could have a whole nother show on that stuff,
So and it put the athletes at the athletes are at a disadvantage,
Right.
They just are, and You know, when Renaldo talked about, I remember back in the day, yes, we had a trust fund and we had to get permission to use the money that you earned. You know?
Well,
You know,
I have
Jack,
an
go ahead.
issue with the fact that, you know, when we listen to the youth, the young kids that are coming up now, and they say as track and field athletes, they're going to go pro. And to me, it just makes me laugh and giggle, because I'm like, track and field for me was not like a job. It was like something I did for fun that I loved, trying to see how good I was going to be. Now, when the finances and all these other things came into play down the road, you know, like I tell everybody, track and field is the foundation of every game that people play. So with what we do every day, you just get up and become a better athlete and a better person, and then you go and move on to play certain games and you do certain things. That's wonderful. But as far as trying to make money in the sport of track and field, I don't see how that's very difficult. The difficult sell to me, and I hope that somebody's going to be able to explain that to me. But you know, there's no fanfare, there's no plot. It's just me getting up and being better than you, and then you leave the track after 10 seconds, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
There's
And
no story.
there are definitely ways you can make money. You know, it's all the lessons we can learn, because we all have our own value. We all have intellectual property, you know, and that has value. And
That's right.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Well, with that, Charles, as always, give you the last word as we wrap this another great conversation up here.
Well, once again, I think we had another great Zoom conference. Like I say, very thankful and appreciative of all of you. This is amazing. Like I say, every time we do this, it's like the first time, and I get so excited with it. And I'm looking forward to the next one. And so you all, thanks. I appreciate you. Be safe, and I hope to see you on the next one.
Absolutely. And Charles, once again, thank you for coming up with this concept and for
Louis,
making this happen. And
Louis,
yes,
Louis, can I leave you with a wonderful quote?
Absolutely.
I had the opportunity to see the great writer James Baldwin and Maya Angelou have a sit-down lunch together. And they were talking about life in general. And there was a quote that James left. And I'd like everyone to really pay special attention to it, because it really caught me. It really says a lot. And it goes like this: the only way to live is to know you're going to die. And if you are afraid to die, you will never be able to live.
Wow. Can you read that one more time?
The only way to live is to know you're going to die. And if you are afraid to die, you will never be able to live.
Yeah. That is powerful. That is really powerful.
Very powerful.
How can you free yourself to actually live each day?
Absolutely.
Wow. Bob, thank you for that. That's tremendous. That will become part of the history of this Zoom chat, that closing thought by you. And so, listen, it's been a great experience again to really sit here and discuss and share ideas. And again, I can't speak enough about how we brought all these people together, these leaping legends, and of course, our great guest, and then people from around the world. Literally love that, to have this discussion. So I hope all of you have taken something from this and you can pass it along to other people and inspire them. We all need to be inspired in the midst of this pandemic and trying to get through this whole thing. And if you happen to have missed some of our earlier discussions, Charles will have those posted. I'm sure he's already had those posted. And if you need to find him on Instagram, he's Charles Austin 96, Facebook Charles Austin, and LinkedIn Charles Austin. He'll have the link to this show up pretty soon. And of course, we will announce our next event, which will be sometime in December. We'll be back again with another great guest, another great topic, and hopefully you all will benefit from that. So with that, I just want to say thanks to all of you. Thanks, of course, to Kenny, to Jackie, to Bob, Charles, and of course, our great guest, Renaldo Nehemiah. And we will see you all in late December. Everybody take care, and we'll talk soon. Thanks again.
Take care, everyone. Be safe.
Right.
Stay well. All right.
Be safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.